to handle a surge of illegal immigrants.
It's a crisis like nothing I've ever seen before at the border. We have refugee camps now in my and your home state of Texas. It's a very serious concern. I don't think the flow will stop until a message of deterrence is sent.
As more illegal immigrants flood across the Mexico-American border, we hear plenty of people and pundits wondering aloud, where is the Border Patrol in all this? Good question. Talk about one group of law enforcement completely overwhelmed and needing every penny of help they can get. But is it all too little and far too late? Join us as we go around the dial and hear from some of the best radio talkers in America today. Welcome back from KLIF Radio in Dallas, Texas. Former Republican candidate for Congress, four-time Emmy Award winner, and the tenacious watchdog of all that is Texas, uncovering government fraud and corruption. Grant Stinchfield joins us on the show today. Grant, thanks for being with us.
Oh, Ed, happy to be here. Thanks for having me on.
All right, let's get down to $2 billion the president is asking for that he wants to help put towards what is happening along the border. I have asked this of several people today. I ask you now, seeing as you're on the ground level there, people wondering, is it just too little and just too late? And no matter how much money you throw at this problem, it simply is not going to get much better much fast. Or very fast.
Well, clearly, Ed, it's too late. I mean, look at the problems we're having down here. By the thousands, these kids are coming across the Texas border. And, you know, the policies put in place by Washington are one issue. I mean, we have a border that is so porous here. And you talk to ranchers on the Texas border who talk about these immigrants coming across their borders, tearing the land up. And then basically they're having to rescue them because they're starving or you know, they need water. And these ranchers are end up saving these people. They turn them over to Border Patrol. And then what's Border Patrol do? Give them a ticket and say, hey, come back for your immigration hearing in 2 months. And, you know, they never come back. So clearly the money thing is too late. You know, I had to laugh at the soundbite you had on before there because it talked about, you know, enforcement or sending a deterrent. We don't have any messages to deter these people. They're coming here because they know they're going to get away with it.
Is it simply a matter, too, that if you look along the towns, and I guess, you know, Dallas-Fort Worth, let's think about it. Dallas-Fort Worth isn't exactly on the border, but now you have some of the illegals are going to be brought to Dallas-Fort Worth. You're going to have Catholic Charities. You're going to be asked to help them there. It still comes down to money at the end of the day. Is there enough money to go around, and are there people already wondering, well, if you're going to do this to my land, if we're going to need this, if we're going to feed this, where is the federal government money? And I already hear that some people are wondering if they'll ever get reimbursed or if any of these towns will ever see any of the money from anybody.
Well, Ed, you know the answer to this. There's no money. The federal government's broke. We don't have $2 billion. We don't have $2 to be spending on this. Now, the bottom line is years ago, we should have built a fence along the border. And I don't say that to be mean or evil, but if you want to keep your neighbors off your property, what do? You build a fence. It's like a funnel. Sure, they would come through the border crossings and try to turn themselves in, but the bottom line is not nearly as many people could get through if you had a fence that was not porous. We can't even talk about doing anything about this crisis until you stop the flow of immigrants. And then the president basically saying, hey, anybody that was here can stay if they were here in 2007. Well, the folks in Guatemala aren't getting that message. They're coming here knowing that they're going to send their kids here and that those kids are going to be able to stay. And quite frankly, Ed, I don't blame those parents for wanting their kids to come to America. I mean, this is the greatest nation in the world. Guatemala, El Salvador, they're struggling. The economy sucks there. Basically, they're in civil war. Why wouldn't you want to send your kids here? And how dire must it be to hand your kids over to a coyote who probably is going to try to sell your kid into the sex trade, but you think the kid is getting a better life? I'm not blaming those folks right now. What I'm blaming is President Obama. I'm blaming Border Patrol. I'm blaming the entire nation for not putting a strong message early on, 10 years ago, that we were not going to tolerate this.
All right, now, blame Border Patrol. Is it fair to hold Border Patrol to up to scrutiny here? Because, quite frankly, they've got to get their money from the federal government. They have to put people there. They have to pay these people. So is it fair to hold the individuals on the ground to charge here as to what's happening?
Oh, no. I'm not holding the individual border agents. I've talked to many of them. They are at the end of their rope. They're overworked. They're underpaid. They're doing everything they can. This all starts from policies and procedures that were put in place years ago. And quite frankly, George Bush has some of the blame in all of this. We had him in office, and he didn't want to do anything about this then. Nobody wants to do anything about it. The first thing, Ed, what needs to be done is we need to make coming into this country a felony crime. Do you know it's a misdemeanor to come into the United States illegally? We need to make it a felony crime. That's the first thing that needs to be done.
All right, a couple of things here. Nancy Pelosi was at a border facility this past weekend, says she talks about immigration reform, but a number of the people that I've spoken with said that she made a wonderful speech, and she certainly talked about the humanitarian issue here, which everybody is aware of, but she really made it seem as if, and again, I'm paraphrasing a number of people I spoke with, that she said, don't worry about it. Come on in, we'll take care of everything. And there are people angry about this because they don't see a member of their government, a leading member of their government, trying to at least do something to stop what is already going on. It looked like a PR stunt to many people.
Well, I'm sure it is, and this is all typical for the Democrats. I mean, they love unicorns and rainbows and fairy tales, and it would be great if we could take all these underprivileged kids and send them all to college and they grow up to have wonderful, wonderful lives and live the American dream. But quite frankly, there is no way in hell that is ever happening. And so we have these kids coming across the border. Yeah, it's humanitarian. And I'm not going to send a 4-year-old back into the arms of coyotes. So the question is, what do you do? The bottom line is you need to stop the flow. Look, Texas is now spending $1.3 million a week to send the state of Texas Department of Public Safety officers down there and work the border to help Border Patrol. It's not our responsibility. It's the responsibility of Mexico. It's the responsibility of Guatemala and El Salvador. They have got to get their situations under control. We got our own set of problems here. And I would love to be able to help the world's problems, but right now we got to concentrate on what's going on here for us.
Grant, I got about 30 seconds left. Are people scared there when they hear news about swine flu and other diseases being heard in the individuals that they're keeping in America right now?
You know, of course, it's scary to hear that, the possibility that they could be bringing over very strange diseases. I do think some of that falls into rhetoric, that you see some on the extreme right who aren't using their heads that want to go hardcore, say, this is why we got to stop it, it's disease, it's disease. I don't think that's the problem. I think we need to get control of our border. We need to get those in Congress to act and step up to the plate and stop being a bunch of wimps and kicking this thing down the road for as long as they have.
You really want politicians to stop being wimps, Grant? I just don't know. Here I thought we had you here for a minute, but
it'll never happen. Will it?
Never happen, but it's okay. We can at least keep dreaming. Grant Stinchfield from KLIF Radio in Dallas, Fort Worth. Grant, thanks so much for joining us, buddy. We'll talk to you again.
Hey, thanks for having me, Ed.
It is something. Every time we hear it, stop them from being wimps. Okay, nice to hope for. Coming up next hour, what the Supremes did, why they did it, and those next shoes that are already dropping across corporate America. We'll tell you what the Supreme Court decided today and find out what it really means for all of America. Because right here on MidPoint, on the Newsmax TV network, we question everything.